Secret. We have the algorithm or the mechanical formula that allows the correct amount of hydrogen to be added into an engine according to that engine. As we know, existing engines, depending on how many kilometers they've traveled, their lifespan, their maintenance level, they all have a different fuel consumption. So our algorithm determines what is the correct amount of hydrogen to be added into each and every engine, because too much hydrogen can embrittle the engine metal, and not enough hydrogen will lose horsepower. So the actual injection is a stoichiometric formula that we're applying, and that makes our unique selling point, that we are able to apply the correct amount of hydrogen according to that particular engine. There's no guessing and hoping that we've got the right amount of energy. We've actually calculated that through. We can have the product installed from product installers. It does not need to be qualified mechanics. We can skills train people in your countries to be product installers. And this is a great benefit for developing nations because it creates new employment for people, especially people who have a lower education base and a lower skill base. It creates employment for those people, and governments are encouraging those employment opportunities. The master mechanics in your country will be diesel mechanics or diesel engineers, but they will be the overseer of a product installer network. When we come into a country to hold a product launch and promote the product, our master mechanics will stay with you and train your master mechanics, who will then on-train the product installer network. So the product, when it's introduced into a country, it's introduced in a product launch, but it's also got all the back of house support that you need to be able to make the installations and take this product to market effectively. The idea of our project is not just to sell a product. We're installing the product, and yes, we can all make commercial profit from that product. The ongoing benefit is the supply of hydrogen, because once a customer is installed, an engine is installed with our product, we then contract the customer to a 5-year supply agreement for hydrogen gas so that they can use the product. Now, the hydrogen production, we envisage that being in your country. So we want to come in and install a hydrogen production plant. The hydrogen production plant is commercially highly attractive. And I'm going to send over to Greg, who will be able to talk to you about the hydrogen production plants and what's required. There's no major infrastructure and no major investment required. So, Greg, if I could just hand over to you.
Sure.
Just a second before you continue. Point of order, please. We've been joined by Felix. Felix is in Brazil. He's a Ghanaian living in Brazil. Felix, you are welcome to the platform. Hi, Felix. Okay, Greg, you can go ahead.
Hello.
Sorry, Felix. Yeah, you can introduce yourself, Felix. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Hi. Good morning to you, everyone. Thanks for the invite. My name is Felix. Typically based in Brazil. I'm a Ghanaian by birth, and I'm glad to partake in this project. So all years now, I'm taking over right here. After everything, I'm going to ask my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome, Felix. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so you'd like me to proceed now?
Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, so the hydrogen plants themselves are based around a hydrogen electrolyzer. So we'll be making green hydrogen, which means hydrogen that is extracted from water via electrolysis.
Sorry, we can barely hear you, Greg. We can barely hear you.
Having trouble? Yeah, I'm having trouble
Yeah.
hearing you too. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
I'll just hold it closer to my face. Sorry, we've had a lot of rain here and our internet's not working well.
Sorry.
So the electrolysis of water to release hydrogen produces green hydrogen rather than extracting the hydrogen from hydrocarbon gases. So that's the method we use, electrolysis of water. So we have the latest technology in electrolyzers. We have quite a versatile product. The way we're looking to initially roll out the hydrogen would be via these modular plants. So we have a single unit that fits into a 30-foot container. It's a very compact unit. It can produce enough hydrogen for about 2,000 vehicles. So these are trucks or buses. So for every 2,000 installations, we build one of these electrolyzers. We can power these electrolyzers with solar. We need about 1,000 square meters of solar per electrolyzer. So overall, including the compression equipment and storage and areas for trucks to come in and collect the cylinders, etc., we probably need about an acre of land to build a single hydrogen unit. That's a complete plant to service about 2,000 trucks or buses. As we get to larger numbers than that, it becomes more efficient. So we're not consuming as much space per plant. So we can get that figure down to about half an acre per plant. Once we get up to around about 5 to 10 plants, we get down to about half an acre from that initial acre for the first plant. So it's quite efficient from a land capacity. So to get a sense of that, for 20,000 vehicles, we need about 5 acres of land to produce enough hydrogen. To produce enough hydrogen for 20,000 vehicles, we need a modest water flow. It's around about half the flow of water that's used by a running shower. So we do need some water supply, but not a huge amount of water. We really, though, the main thing is access to infrastructure that allows us to get the cylinders from the site out to the customers. So this is the beauty of these modular units, that we don't have to build one great big plant. We can put plants near the customers. So where we have clusters of customers, we can put smaller plants closer to them. Where we have access to a higher density of customers, there we can build larger and therefore more efficient plants. So we have a very versatile product there as far as the electrolyzers are concerned. The electrolyzers themselves are basically autonomous. So we project manage and perform the installation of the plant, the installation of the solar, the compression equipment, etc. And then we will train local workers to staff the plants themselves. The electrolyzers need very little in terms of maintenance. Mostly what the staff would be doing is things like maintaining, say, the demineralization systems, depending on how salty the water is we're using, back flushing those, a maintenance act, but mostly it would be filling and then loading the cylinders. And we'll be training local labour to carry out those functions. So we're creating some employment and an industry within the country as well. The beauty of this method of creating hydrogen, and the beauty of hydrogen as a fuel, is that we can give countries a big chunk of their energy independence. Rather than having to import hydrocarbon fuels, refined hydrocarbon fuels, you've got an opportunity in nation to just make your own energy, just create your own hydrogen, and then take it to wherever the customers are. Most of the trucks and buses would need to be replacing a cylinder about once a week. So the cylinders could simply be delivered to depots for them to be changed. If we see bigger, like we are in some countries, we're seeing interest in a greater expansion to smaller vehicles and more of the mass transit. then we could potentially make the cylinders available at petrol stations. So people could simply change their own cylinder when fueling up. For most vehicles, you wouldn't be replacing the cylinder every time you fueled up, but maybe it'd be every second time you replace the cylinder when you fuel up. So the infrastructure itself, we're basically tapping into existing infrastructure and just building the plants themselves. Are there any questions about any of that?
Thank you, Greg. Well, we'll come to the questions. Aaron, what I want you to do now is to walk us through a roadmap as to how to establish this this business in a country, and maybe if what are the cost implications? If you could just walk us through that.
Sure. I think if this meeting if it closes on us, Jamie will send another meeting link immediately. So we'll just alert to that because it may close soon. So the roadmap of going forward is that the Australian technology will be licensed to product distributors in another nation. There is no upfront license fee required. We're more interested in joining with people who can achieve product sales than requesting license fees. We strongly believe that relationships in businesses are equally or more important than the commercials in the beginning. So we will appoint a product distributor in nation. Now that product distributor will have a license to trade the product for motor vehicles, for heavy transport, agricultural equipment, mining equipment, power generators, trains and ships. To go forward, the license will be awarded to a local trading company. We ideally require and request a Globo Hydropower Kenya, Globo Hydropower Ghana, whatever the country's name is, that company be opened. So you're recognised as the trading point. You will have exclusivity to the technology and to the rights to trade that technology. You will require, as the product distributor in that country, you will need a point of sales location where people can know where to contact you, how to contact you for sales points. Now, your customers will generally be commercial customers, governments, major corporations. So they're the customer market we're looking for. We are wanting customers to provide an expression of interest. Once we have an expression of interest, now the magic number to get a hydrogen plant and hydrogen production in a country, the magic number is 2,000 installations, not 2,000 customers. So once we have an expression of 2,000 engine upgrades, the Australian team will pay through an investor to come over and conduct a product launch in your country. Now, that product launch is to validate the product, show the customers that have provided the expression of interest that the product's true, it's correct, and it's working in your country. Now, that's of no cost to the product distributor. Once we've held the product launch and converted those customer expressions of interest into customer purchase agreements, there's 2 stages to the customer purchase agreement. Stage 1 is to, yes, accept the product. The product, we anticipate providing it to them on a lease basis. So we will work with a financial institution in your country to provide customers with the product on a lease basis. We anticipate being able to supply the product for $4.50 US a day. Now, to mining industries and large corporations, that's a very, very affordable daily rate. The reasons I want to provide it on a lease basis is 1, there's no upfront cost to the customer. But 2, we, as a united team, Australia and your country, we own the carbon credits. Now, carbon credits is becoming a commodity that's traded around the world on many stock markets. if we own the carbon credits, we can sell those carbon credits for significant income, passive income, on the stock market in America, in Europe, etc. At the moment, developing countries are not allowed to sell carbon credits. Now, if the customers in your country own those carbon credits, they're lost. So by working with us as a developed country, the developing countries, we can collect the carbon credits and we can sell them and make a significant profit on those sales. We have a carbon trader who's currently willing to pay us between $20 and $50 US a ton. So if we collect those carbon credits, that's just the third phase of income. We will share a profit on selling the product installation. We will make a profit. We will share on selling the gas, and we will make a profit on selling the carbon credits, which provides us a second passive income for the next 5 years. Governments are very, very keen to get this product technology into their nation. So I don't believe that there'll be any barriers to commercializing the product in nation. The only expense to start this product is the local cost to open a company and to operate an office where it's going to be the sales contact point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, I just have one question here. You
Yes.
were talking of translating the expression of interest into direct order. Can we start with 500, 200, or we have to reach 2,000 before it's translated into a sale?
The magic number of 2,000 was always set because that's what we need to have the hydrogen plant running at full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm prepared to say that everything's negotiable and that we will look for smaller numbers if that needs to be.
Okay. So one can start with 100, 200. Can that be fulfilled? An order for 100, 200, can that be fulfilled?
Look, I mean, that's negotiable. It's not the ideal, but we can negotiate that. The ideal is, with all respect, the ideal to get the 2,000 for the hydrogen plant. But we're fully aware that you have to start somewhere and progress.
Well, gentlemen, I think the floor is open for questions. If anybody has any question or any input, I think that would be welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do have a question. My question is around the expression of interest. So now I'll just give or it's a question in the statement, so to speak. So now, say we have connection with government or multinational companies and other NGOs in the country. We go around lobby with government or other NGOs and multinational companies, or even or say individuals, and get those expression of interest. So if we get 2,000 expression of interest, that's would be considered a sale?
That's correct. That's correct. The expression of interest is considered in the sales, yes.
Okay. So then with those 2,000 expression of interest, that means just per installation. So that means per vehicle.
That's correct. It's per vehicle. Per vehicle.
Per vehicle. So 2,000 goes. So it could be one expression of interest from the government with 2,000 fleet of vehicles, and that could be considered 2,000 customers. Is that correct?
That's totally correct.
Okay, thank you. I have other questions, but I'll allow others to ask.
Okay, you talk about fuel. Are we dealing with both diesel and petrol, or just diesel?
No, diesel and petrol. The reason I reference diesel primarily because that's where the heavy vehicles are and the heavy engines are.
Okay.
Excellent.
The carbon credit side of things, every 1 litre of diesel that we no longer burn during the combustion process, we're saving 2.7 kilos of carbon emissions. The hydrogen, we're looking at selling it for 5 or 6 cents a litre. To give you an idea of cost savings for the customer, in Australia, we're currently paying $1.85 a litre for diesel, and the customers will be replacing that with around 40 cents a litre for hydrogen. So the cost savings are significant.
Okay, a very important question. It is the cost of installation. The cost of installation.
Sure. So supplied from Australia, the cost of installation is $4,000. Now that will be on a lease basis over 5 years.
Okay, so that's more of a payment arrangement, so to speak.
Correct.
Where they can pay a monthly fee, or would that be would it be required to pay weekly or on a monthly basis?
On a monthly basis, calculated daily on a monthly basis. Again, the reason that I want to do that is so there's no upfront fees to the customers, and commercially we own the carbon credits.
Okay, so we can spread the 4,000 payment on a period, let's say a month, 2 months, depending on how best we see.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. Now,
5 years. So over 5 years. So over 5 years. That's clear. That's clear. I was going to ask a question, but I believe that's clear enough. If it's over 5 years and there's no, in my understanding, that reduces the barrier to entry, the barrier to adoption, where more and more people will be keen to adopt the technology because it doesn't come at an upfront cost, but they can start saving money straight away and put that saving towards the monthly payment.
That's right.
Totally correct. Totally correct. As Greg explained it to a country the other day, the fee to have the product on a monthly basis, that comes off the fuel savings. So you've got your fuel savings, and then that fee comes off the fuel savings. So technically, the expense is actually zero because your fuel savings covers the fee.
Okay. Now, talking about commercial advantage, in the documentation, you were talking about 30% save, but now with Burkina Faso, you're talking about 50% save. Which is the figure to use in terms of when you're marketing this idea?
Sure. It depends on what you believe is appropriate for your country. We can go up to 50%. The reason that we say 30% because the Australian government, they play politics and they want to go 30% at the beginning and then 5 years later 40% and then 5 years later 50%. But it can go straight away to 50%. That's not a problem.
Okay.
If I may ask a question. Here in Ethiopia, the Ethiopian government is working on hydropower energy generation. So compared to the hydrogen fuel, how can we compare the benefits of using hydrogen gas for vehicles and at the same time using hydrocarbons or hydropower generated energy going into the electric vehicle powers? So how do you compare these two? Because Ethiopia now is going green. As you might have heard, the government's policy towards vehicles on the road is 100% to be electric vehicle by 2026, next year. Already, the government has adopted a policy where no hydrocarbon operated cars are not allowed to come into the market. So how do you compare the two to be able to convince the government to invest in hydrogen gas investment? What is your take on this? what do you advise?
Sure. Greg, can I just revert to you, because you've done a lot of research into electric vehicles versus hydrogen?
Yeah. So there are a couple of ways to look at this. So you're looking at they're talking hydroelectric power. Is that what you mean?
Yes. No, there is a plenty full hydro power generated energy. In fact, a lot of mining companies are coming and taking a lot of energy from that. So my question is directed to how advantageous is going to be hydrogen gas generation compared to the hydropower generation, which is going on in Ethiopia. As you might heard, there is a big dam built, a 5,000 megawatts generation dam is going to be completed in September. In a few days, it's going to be inaugurated. So yes, coming into the market with hydrogen gas, how do we win the government's attention in that direction? That's what I would like to ask.
I would say that the simple approach there is that with our technology, what we can do is halve the carbon emissions of all the existing vehicles. Mm-hmm. So in order to go electric, so if they've made the decision that no hydrocarbon cars will be coming into the country as of next year, presumably they're not taking all of the existing hydrocarbon burning vehicles off the road immediately. That would be a gigantic cost.
Yeah.
So what they'll be doing is just selling. They're talking about the new vehicles being electric. So that's fine. But what we're talking about is taking all of the existing vehicles and halving their carbon emissions. So it would be like taking half the vehicles on the road today and taking them off the road as far as carbon emissions are concerned. So it's a way that countries can dramatically reduce their carbon footprint very quickly. The electrics are going to take time. I don't know exactly where. This is Ethiopia, sorry, did you say?
Yes, it is Ethiopia.
Yeah. I don't know where Ethiopia's energy grid is up to and where the energy infrastructure is up to.
Yes, there is a very difficult situation there is a power generation, as I just enlightened to you.
Yes.
It's going to be there is a contention between Ethiopia and Egypt because of this big dam, but the energy transmission is still a problem.
Yes. So the difficulty, the difficulty for electric vehicles is going to be charging them where they are. Because you need to do that with electric vehicles.
That's the problem now in the country, a big problem now.
That's a problem absolutely everywhere. That's not just an issue in Ethiopia. That's a problem in Australia.
Yeah.
Is charging the vehicles where they are. And it's why there's been no serious push in Australia to go for electric heavy vehicles. The vehicles that are being promoted as electric in Australia are just light vehicles, just individual owners with their cars. But even then, the Australian government just announced recently that they are going to start charging the owners of electric vehicles for road use, which is something that they hadn't been doing in the past. So that signals to me that they're recognising that we can't actually move that quickly towards electric vehicles anyway because of the issues with the infrastructure and charging them where they are. Yeah. So things like trucks and buses, I would suggest. I mean, I have no experience with Ethiopia, but I can tell you that in Australia, the infrastructure simply doesn't exist for trucks and buses to be electric and be able to be charged as they're driving between cities and across country. That just wouldn't be possible. It's decades away. So what we can offer is an opportunity for all of those vehicles to halve their carbon emissions, and we could do that over the next 2 years, with every vehicle in Ethiopia.
Okay.
And I would argue that there's no practical way in Ethiopia or any other country that you could convert half of the current transport fleet to electric in 2 years. That wouldn't be possible.
It's impossible. It's true.
So, Greg, we can say we can have a commercial or marketing positives by mentioning the reduction in carbon emission, save of fuel, and then, we can use that as marketing and commercial tools, as advantages when we are marketing these products, right?
Yeah,
for the
and it's
existing fleet of hydrocarbon cars. Yeah.
yes, and it's straight away. I think that's a really important point. That everybody talking about electrification, you notice in all of their materials, all of their communication, they keep talking about a greener tomorrow, whereas we're offering a greener today. We've got the technology right now. We can be rolling it out right now.
Okay, I see some hands up. Yeah, Dr. Tobias, let's listen to you.
Okay, thank you. I requested to chip in so that I don't leave with us appreciating you all, especially the team from Australia, and just highlight 2 key points I noted in the presentation, and I've been a good learner in this whole conversation. Africa, as you rightfully said, and in your presentation, and having looked at the key documents you share, is still struggling to be able to solve the issue of carbon emission. Giving an example of Kenya, which already generates over 90% of electricity, approximately around 70 to 90% electricity from renewable energy. Thus, we depend on hydropower, but we still have a challenge of our vehicles on the road still use petrol and diesel. And I like the technology you're coming up with to be able to sort out this mess we're having globally, especially in African countries. But I had a question: how best and can this be done? Bearing in mind also appreciating the fact that countries, just to mention, like Tanzania, which is also transitioning to hydropower, and having worked closely with the governments in these 2 countries and other countries in Africa, how will this technology really apply to these countries, and how long does it take? And what are the mechanism and the good practices that we can?
Oh, we lost it. We lost him. Okay, Chris, in the meantime, Chris, you can ask your question. I can see your hands up.
Thank you very much. I have listened and I've picked quite a bit of the information required. I just wanted to just drop back a bit. But I know that the emphasis is on the commercial vehicles, and we are looking at commercial vehicles that will be going to buses, industrial vehicles like trucks, and things like that. If interest is developed with the lighter vehicles, what intervention is Global Hydro having for this? Because whereas maybe in other countries it could be big, for us here in Uganda, there's quite a large population that has the light vehicles, they use vehicles, and those are the fast and quickest people to get to in terms of introduction of new technologies, especially when it comes to reduction of when it comes to saving on what would be consumption of fuel. Is there a dedicated outlook or map that Global Hydro is looking at, targeting that particular space? Because for us here in Uganda, it would be a very easy sell for us to do. Yes, it's quite, it would not be very difficult to walk to maybe the multinationals, the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis of this world that are here, and then the bus companies. However, the population of the lighter vehicles here is actually big. Is there a chance for us to target that market as well? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Before you answer that question, Dr. Tobias is back. Let him complete his question so that you can answer both at the same time, please. Thank you. Dr. Tobias, you can complete your question, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Technology and also being in a space where meetings are very minimal. Okay, to complete my question, I wanted to reiterate that given Kenya's strong renewable energy base and Tanzania's rapidly expanding hydropower capacity, for both of which create credible foundation for green hydrogen. Just referencing on some of the key documentation I've read through, how do you envision structuring your investment in East Africa? And can we target also fleets of vehicles, yes, in that country as well, and some of the cities that we have here in the country, with the congested road networks and with clear policy documentations, but very little implementation, which I'm appreciative that you've highlighted the keen interest on how you can revitalize this into good practice that will sort out the mess that we're having on issues around carbon emissions in our countries. And then lastly, would you also prioritize hydrogen vehicle deployment first, or would you see a greater value in an integrated approach that combines mobility, hydrogen production, or you'll rely on maybe having it come from Australia, or you'll have to establish a plant, let's say in Kenya or Tanzania, or wherever you're going to designate? Thank you so much, and back to you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, do you want to comment on the hydropower? And
yeah, sure. Yeah. So hydroelectricity has the advantage of being stable and consistent. So it's generating energy 24 hours a day. Hydrogen as a method of energy storage becomes very appealing when you have a grid that is being powered largely by hydroelectricity. I'll explain what I mean by that. Generally, the demand for electricity is higher during the day. Industry, business, etc., draws from the grid during the day. There's less need for energy to be drawn during the night. So what my thinking there would be that we solar power the hydrogen plants, and our solar energy could be fed into the grid to supplement the hydro during the day, as well as making hydrogen. And then we could be drawing from the grid at night to be making hydrogen. And then the hydrogen is used for the transport sector as a form of green energy. So I think as a supplement to hydroelectric power, hydrogen becomes a fantastic way to effectively store that energy that's being generated overnight that isn't being consumed. Instead of having these massive batteries, which you need enormous amount of battery storage for a lot of these kinds of methods of energy generation to be efficient, hydrogen becomes an excellent way to store that energy. So that's just one thought with regards to a grid that's being powered by hydro. But the more immediate advantage is that the hydropower, as we were just discussing for Ethiopia, then has to be used to charge the electric vehicles, which means the infrastructure needs to be in place to charge the electric vehicles where the electric vehicles are. Whereas the beauty of hydrogen is we can make it at a central point and then take it to the vehicles in cylinders, which isn't something you can do with electricity. So in that respect, it'd be great if a country like Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia can reach a point in the future where they're generating all of their electricity by hydroelectric, charging electric vehicles and powering electric vehicles as the entire transport sector. But that's quite a way off because it's an incredibly expensive thing to do that requires very substantial upgrades to infrastructure, as well as, of course, replacing all of the vehicles. Whereas we offer a 50% reduction in carbon without needing to build all of that infrastructure and without needing to replace all of the vehicles. So it's a much quicker and more cost-effective way to reduce the carbon emissions.
Excellent point. Thank you, Greg.
Is that the question? If I answered the question, I wasn't sure if I did.
Yeah, you did. You did. On my regards from Ethiopian perspective, I think it's a satisfactory answer. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I also appreciate you responded to my question. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yes, because you were asking about the smaller vehicles as well. That yes, 100%. We can do the smaller vehicles. We can make smaller cylinders available at petrol stations, allowing people to exchange the cylinder themselves. Alternatively, we were talking, weren't we, Elaine, in South Africa with their sort of van and minibus taxi fleet.
Yes.
That we can fit a reasonable sized cylinder in the backs of those. They'd be changing that cylinder maybe once every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how much driving they're doing. So that becomes really practical as well. Every 2 to 4 weeks, they pull in and do a swap on a cylinder at a central point where we're delivering the cylinders to. So yes, all of that can be done.
Okay, thank you. I see a hand up, but let me introduce Dr. Amos from Nigeria. He came in late, but Dr. Amos, you're welcome to the platform. Hello, Dr. Amos. Okay, I can see Vafi has his hand. Mr. Holmes, you're welcome to ask your question.
Thank you, Patrick. I'd like to start by commending the presenters for a brilliant presentation. I mean, for us in Liberia, hearing this news is for me an indication of a blessing, you know, because like other countries, the deployment is still something yet to experience or yet to be experienced in Liberia. And so initiating this in our country, you know, would certainly be something that is going to be quite welcoming on a national stage. And then to also state that I'm more concerned about the lifespan of the hydrogen gas as far as the availability is concerned, because if this is introduced and you could get maybe much more interest being garnered or much more proposals coming up for even more customers to get onto it, would that mean that we would have to think about the installation of more hydrogen plants that would be installed in different parts of the country? Because if the country saw this as a cost saving method and an alternative a way of saving costs away from the high cost of fuel and gas, I'm quite sure a lot more people would want to gravitate towards that, including the regular commercial light vehicle drivers and all of that. So what's the assurance of being available? Like the petrol stations will open every morning, and cars will go and get their tanks filled to run the entire day, especially a local commercial vehicle. What's the possibility of having several of those stations with available hydrogen gas that would be available at all times, 24/7, for commercial vehicles to just get there, fill up, get their tanks replaced, and move on, you know, on the traffic or move on with whatever the industrial work that they're doing. So my question is about the availability, all right, and the possible lifespan of the hydrogen gas once it's applied to large companies or to local commercial drivers.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, in terms of the consistency of supply, we'd be making as much in nation as there was a demand for. We can build large scale hydrogen production. We've been talking about these modular units and being able to, sort of add one for every 2,000 vehicles. But if there's substantial demand, particularly in a country the size of Nigeria, then we can build large plants. That we have access to a single electrolyzer that would produce enough hydrogen for 800,000 vehicles. That's the biggest one we have access to, is a single electrolyzer could do that. We've got access to electrolyzers that can produce enough hydrogen for 100 vehicles, all the way up to 800,000 vehicles. So I would make the argument that the hydrogen is a more consistent and reliable supply than the petroleum fuels. Because the petroleum fuels, you're largely reliant on countries, some of them that are a bit, geopolitically volatile, reliant on those countries to provide the world's supply of that particular product, whereas countries have the capacity to have their own hydrogen supply in nation. So yes, I would suggest that the consumers can be very confident of the supply. We just make as much as they need. We're making it out of sunlight and water. So it's not like it's something we have to find the resources somewhere. Sunlight and not a lot of water. It's not a huge amount of water. 12 litres of water makes 10,000 litres of hydrogen.
Wow.
So it's not a huge amount of water. And the sunshine, and we're just making the fuel ourselves. I think that's probably one of the primary advantages I would suggest of using hydrogen, is the stability of the supply.
Right. Thank you, Greg. I think from the beginning of this discussion, the focus has basically been on automobiles. But in my discussion with Felix a short while ago, he raised the angle of industries. Felix, I think you can elaborate on that and your experience.
Absolutely. So it's not just automotive vehicles, heavy transport. I'm working, and I have worked with China and Mongolia on their mining equipment. We're about to work with an Australian mining company here, or supplier to the mining industry. You may have heard of them, called Murray Engineering. They are a supplier, and a grade supplier to the mining industry. They're looking at excavators, underground power generation, all types of agricultural equipment, mining equipment. We also are looking with Afghanistan for trains. They're looking to put in diesel trains that are run on hydrogen. In particular, in some of the Asian countries, China shipping are looking to work at putting it into their cargo ships. In particular for shipping, if you want to travel the North American Sea by 2030, you no longer have to worry about carbon. You have to worry about NOx reduction. So unless your NOx reduction is evidenced, then your ships will not be allowed to travel the North American Sea in 2030. So the larger engines, trains, ships, power generators, and I said agricultural mining equipment, they're all of our customer market.
Thank you, Elaine. Felix, I hope this answers your question, right? Or if you want to have some contribution.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you very much, Elaine. I think I got your point. Here in Brazil, like you say, there are about 400 sugar mills in Brazil. And then every year, these mills produce about 46.3 million tons of sugar. And then should we depend on this resource we're talking about, this hydrogen gas fuel, which happens to be an enhancer. I really wanted to, because when I read the submission, the document where you submit through Mr. Patrick, there's a part that says hydrogen gas is a field enhancer, and that really reduces the cost of the petrol and the diesel consumption or the cost of fat, and then they'll maximize some kind of profit in the petroleum field. Okay, so in that case, it's really going to be very beneficial to the Brazilian sugar production, because Brazil happens to be one of the countries that has huge industrialization. Industrialization. Area when it comes to agriculture produce or production. So I can bet that on this very product we're talking about, this hydrogen gas, is really going to enhance the Brazilian economy when it comes to fuel consumption. So I have already sent a document you sent through Mr. Patrick to me, which was in Portuguese. I forwarded to one of these plant, one of the meals, and I asked him to read through. He came back, and the next day he said, "Hi, come on, Felix, this is gonna be mind-blowing stuff." That's what he told me. That was the feedback. I have people who are in place, some lawyers. I'm sitting them down. Killed that question, saying that electric vehicles are going to be the future. So it's not for now. That was a brilliant reply from Crack. And then I also wanted to ask about the cost of installation. I think it did. Answered about that at $4,000, and it's going to take 5 years to stop that. So that also a brilliant submission on that as well. Actually, most of my questions have been answered by most of these brilliant people who are on the platform. But what my last point is that we are going to mastermind this very opportunity that is coming to the scene because of the high production rate in Brazil. And I just want to promise you that I'm going to go extra mile to work on this, and I'll get back to you with a feedback to Mr. Patrick Ellen. So thank you very much. This is what I wanted to talk about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Felix. And I sincerely appreciate your energy and passion to take this to the marketplace. Could you just check Patrick in time to rejoin the existing meeting, please? And I think this is an opportunity for all of the countries to change their economic position. Fuel has been a dictator of economic development for too long, and if we can take this to countries that deserve that opportunity to change their economic balance, then I'm absolutely honoured to do that.
Great, awesome, Elia. Okay. So I'll give feedback. I'll send you feedback to Mr. Patrick one more time again about how these guys thinking that the lawyers are what they're going to come, because Brazil also politically they have some sort of restrictions in many things, especially if you're a foreigner and then you reside in Brazil, you want to do something like autonomously or something like that. You want to independently want to establish in Brazil. When it comes to the fact that you are a foreigner, a lot of things come to place. So that's why I needed to, lie through these lawyers to see the legalities involved in Brazilian constitution and stuff, so I can maybe mastermind the whole ground. And I'm very interested in this, Ellen. Trust me. When I read through the stuff, I go like, "Wow, it's a mind-blowing stuff." It's essential stuff we're talking about here today. Even though Greg said that electric vehicles going to be the future and not now. But I still also bet that, I still agree with Greg that it's going to take a long time for this vehicle to go off. Come in place to take over the old truck. The old machine that we have that use fuel. Okay. So thank you very much for everything once again. You hear. I would like to come back to you after some time, maybe from these days on when I'm done with the meeting with the lawyers and these people involved, all the associate. Then we'll take it from there. I'll let you have the feedback. Thank you.
Okay.
Honored, sir. Honored.
Thank you. Let me take advantage to introduce Dr. Amos from Nigeria. Dr. Amos, welcome. Hello, Dr. Amos. Hello, Dr. Amos. Okay, then I think we can continue. Now, Ellen, back to my question again. Well, hello, Dr. Amos.
I was going to say he's muted. Maybe he's trying to speak, but he's muted. So, Dr. Amos, if you need to mute yourself.
Okay. Now, Ellen, to come back to the commercial arguments, so can we still go with this 50% reduction?
Absolutely.
Because now, to be able to market this, we need to put together all the commercial arguments, all the positives. And
Yes.
that's going to be our key, our main key to be able to market this. So if we can go with the 50, reduction in emission, reduction in cost of fuel, we take all these things together. So we present a package to government or to whichever institution, and we know this is what we are going with. Yeah.
Totally. Yes, no. We as I said, Burkina Faso, they've already gone with the 50%. It was just the Australian government that they asked us to promote 30%, but it's very able to go 50% from the beginning.
Okay, that's right. Now, in the document somewhere along the line, I saw something like shareholding. Can you clarify a bit on that? Because that was a question that came up in some of the discussions with some of the partners. Yeah.
Sure. I just want to, could you just ask Greg to join the existing meeting? You used to say Greg saying the Thank you, Jamie. Sure. So the shareholdings for the local trading company, the Australian company are not requesting any shares in the local trading company. So what we were suggesting in that proposal was the people who are putting in time and effort, that they be rewarded as well in some shareholdings. So you may decide that you want a local investor to pay for the setup fees and so forth. So they would need some shareholdings. The person on the ground who's doing the work, who's doing all the sales, because they're putting that time and effort in at the beginning, they need a piece of reward from the shareholdings. But it's entirely up to you how you structure the shareholdings in your local company. At no stage are we requesting any input from that or any shares.
Okay, thank you. Let me make this submission. You tell me whether I'm wrong, right or wrong, and you correct me where I'm wrong. You correct me where I'm wrong. Though we are not at the end of this discussion, number one, anybody wishing to have further and more clarification, we can still organize a meeting for this person and go through the questions and answers with that person. That is one. Number two, I will encourage each person to at least fill in and sign the sales agreement. It doesn't bind anybody yet, but it helps to secure for the country that you are the rep or the license holder for that country. Tell me if I'm wrong or right.
Totally correct, Patrick. Yes.
So even if one is not ready to set up or to establish, and one has a plan that in the next couple of months, let me go through all of our research to be able to set up, it will be advisable now to sign the sales agreement. So at least you have secured the country for yourself. And then with time, get to understand the business better and then maybe get into full operation, if that's right.
Yeah, it's totally correct. And I think that's the best way. Secure the country. So you know that that's your country to go forward. We're happy to help and assist in any way that we can to help you progress. But definitely, as Patrick's recommendation, please fill in the sales agreement or the product distributor agreement, and we're happy to work with you as you progress.
Will you avail yourself for individual meetings if the need arises?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're here to help.
Good. Good.
So, Patrick?
Yes, go ahead.
So, still speaking as a complete novice to this technology, new technology, and for the purpose of, Liberia being one of the benefiting countries, where do we start from? My question is this. We are interested and highly interested too. So if you were to put in for, say, for example, a step-by-step process for procuring fuel supply, all right, from a manufacturing company overseas, they're going to send you a list that says, okay, first do this, second step this, third step this, fourth step up to getting the shipment into your country at the destination port. And so in my mind, I'm trying to think through a clear roadmap that will kind of spell out a step-by-step transactional, progress update from our end as would be distributors to say, okay, the first thing we need to do is to send our EOIs to the company, and then once we get the response from them, the next thing is to maybe register the company's branch in country. And then next would be maybe to do a formal request for supplies based on or to put out our local expression of interest for interested customers and all of that. And then the next step is this and that, up to the point where we know we have the product in hand and we can assure our buyers, would-be buyers, that, okay, once you put in with your EOIs, within this period of time, you can expect that the product's going to be on the ground. Is there a clear step to understanding that?
Absolutely. In the product distributor agreement, there's an overview of what the steps are involved, but I'm actually detailing, at Patrick's recommendation, I'm detailing those procedures. Part of the procedure will be when the product is ordered from Australia, that it's delivered from Australia in a timeline, and Jamie will work with you on those timelines to have the product delivered to you end to end. But those procedures.
Let me attempt to answer the question for him from an African point of view.
Sure.
I think a simple roadmap will be, first of all, signing the sales agreement. That makes you a licensee holder for the country. Secondly, setting up your company, all right, global hydro, let's say Liberia or Ghana or whatever, okay, getting your location, your office premises where you can transact business from, and now going around and getting EOIs, if I'm right.
Correct. Totally correct, Patrick.
Beautiful. And all of those will happen before we now send for, based on the EOIs, the local EOIs responses, we get a number of customers queued up, then we make the formal requisition to the company, right?
Yes. Right. Correct. Totally correct.
Yeah. So, Ellen, I think you might have to come again in a more simplified form, this roadmap, okay, in a very more simplified form.
Definitely.
So it's not for every country, but in a very more simplified form and very practical form. Okay.
Sure. I will do.
One question for me, Brother Patrick. I'm trying to raise my hand, but I can't figure it out.
Sorry.
If it's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, through the discussions when we introduced ourselves, heard some representatives that are representing more than one country. And due to the strategic location of Liberia, we're very close to Guinea, Sierra Leone, and the Ivory Coast. Yeah, so my question here, do you have representatives for those countries? If not, we're interested in Sierra Leone and Guinea. Is that allowed?
Absolutely. You could be a representative from multiple countries. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I have a very strong network in Guinea. and I have good ties in government in Guinea. And I think Guinea is, I believe Guinea is a country of interest, and Sierra Leone is a country of interest because we have influence in both Guinea and Sierra Leone that we can get this rolling up and running in those countries as well, and we can get those expression of interest in those countries very easily.
Lovely. So we would need a product distributor agreement for each of those countries because we treat them on a country by country basis.
Yeah. That's okay. Now, yes. Chris, I can see your hands up. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ado.
No, I was going to say, so thank you for that. So I will be sending in 3 for Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Very welcome.
Thank you.
Chris, I can see your hand is up. Chris?
Yes, I know that Elena said something towards the fact that it's country by country, but I wanted to look at a scenario. Even I think Dr. Tobias mentioned it, something to do with, say, the unique setup of, say, East Africa, where within maybe the 3 big ones, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, you're able to get maybe about 2,000 or so expressions of interest combined. Would it make sense to put maybe one plant in one of the 3 countries, and then that can be a shorter supply chain to the others as the numbers grow in that particular country? Just looking at different ways of being able to come in to sell the product, maybe not be able to get to the first 2,000 so that you can get a plant in country. But yes, if, say, in Kenya, there's 1,000, there's 500 here, there's another 1,500 or so within the East African community where movement of these things would not be very difficult, physical movement of items would not be very difficult. Would such an opportunity, if there, be looked into?
Sure. Absolutely. If we can transport the cylinders from one production location to multiple locations. That's not a problem, and we can share the production. Just commenting. So we can share. What we produce in one location, we can share in multiple locations. That's not a problem.
Now, there's one important factor we don't have to overlook. Is meeting the standard board's standards in each country, and then having permits from the Energy Commission. And I think with that, let's say in every country has an Energy Commission and the standards board. I think we might need a lot of technical information for us to be able to present these products or whatever, even the cylinders and the products to these organizations for permits and authorizations.
Yes. Oh, he's great. He was eating now. Right.
Yeah.
Pardon?
That's what.
Great. So we were just discussing about in some countries, we can share the production of hydrogen from one plant to the other countries, because there might be 500 in one country and 200 in another country. So we can centralize the plant and then share the cylinders of gas.
Yes, absolutely. Logistics programs in terms of transport, customs, and immigration issues, So I think it would be more advisable to have a plant in a country instead of cross-border transportation.
It certainly would be better to have in nation. The less transportation, the better, just for the sake of for cost and efficiency. But if you're talking in early stages, because this is a technology that it's likely to sell very effectively by word of mouth. When people start using it and people start asking them about it and they tell them how much they're saving. So if to get that started, we're talking about a centralized generation that we're transporting the cylinders, yes, we can certainly do that, but we would look to expand the market in each nation to where each nation has its own energy. Hydrogen generation would be the most efficient way, certainly.
Now, Dr. Tobias, I see your hand is up.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to reiterate a point which you just mentioned. There's need to do due diligence on the ground within the relevant parastatals or ministries relevant for before we do anything. And also to reiterate what my brother from Uganda just said, and Kenya stands out as a strategic entry point into the East African community, as all of you may know, that not only because it is a growing consumer of many products and gives market, but also connectivity and regulatory leadership. And that's why when you did mention that you're targeting to get entry into different countries, for instance, in Africa, clarity on the information that is required before setup, and also some protocols. The East African community is different with the ECOWAS and other regional blocks, but I'm glad that we are regulated by the African Union statutes, and also each and every regional bloc has its own regulatory framework. With the coming in of the Africa Free Trade Area, it helps now to surmount this. But following all those statutes will help us now to see how and where, and each and every person, I'm glad, is representing each and every country. So giving that information will help you, so that as you plan to set up a plan, let's say in Kenya, you know, after the setup, how are we going to ensure the cylinders get to Uganda, DRC, Tanzania, which other country? And with free movement and very less regulatory framework, it makes less expensive to do that. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Patrick?
Yeah. So, any more questions?
Yes, there was.
Rafi, go ahead. Go ahead.
A question that is still left hanging, and I was really interested in asking that very question when you put it out, for the purposes of quality control and getting the appropriate licensing in country is important. That at some point, once we can set up the country's office, that will have access to the product for testing, because the product has to be subjected to the local environmental, regulatory, and scientific, testing procedures in country. And so will the product be available at that point where we are probably applying for license as an institution on the ground? And one of those requirements would be that we have the product tested in the lab.
Sure. We are there to support you with that process. We went through that just recently with India. All of our technology and the product meets ISO standards, but India have their own in-country standards. So part of that process that we helped them with, we wrote the standards that are ISO standards. We matched them and wrote them to the Indian standards. So we've been down the approval road with them. We've also been down the approval road with EPA with America. So we were able to help the American product distributor to achieve their EPA approvals. So whatever's needed in a country, it's our role to be there to help you and assist you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, Ellen, the success of this industry also depends on a very aggressive marketing campaign, right? So I don't know if you're going to support with marketing and merchandising the material, It needs a very, very aggressive marketing campaign drive, to bring awareness and to attract interest. And that will demand a lot of marketing and merchandising material.
Sure. So I'll go to Ross there, because Ross actually manages all of our social media, and Ross will supply whatever materials we have available. But Ross, would you like to comment?
Now, besides social media, I'm thinking about physical, like billboards, stickers, those kind of merchandising material that could draw attention here. That's okay. That's fine. And then looking at launching the product in a country on a national scale, in a big way, it's all to draw attention. Thank you. Dr. Amos, are you still there? Dr. Amos? Okay. So, gentlemen, I don't know if anybody has any more questions.
Yeah, I have one silly question to ask Patrick.
Go ahead. No question is silly.
Yeah, so it's just kidding. So the hydrogen gas is, I heard, is an alternative fuel. So does it replace, once you're using it, it replaces either the use of gasoline or diesel in your vehicle? That's the.
So please say it again. I just lost the connection there.
Does the hydrogen gas replace entirely the use of gasoline or fuel in a vehicle? It takes the place of that, or is it added to it?
It's added to the fuel. The reason being that the current engines are made of an aluminium alloy, and we are not able to just change over from an oil-based fuel at this point, because the hydrogen will seep through the aluminium alloy in the engine. So it's a dual fuel system.
Wonderful.
So
Yes, it's
And what about vice versa?
you.
Can I just,
Okay.
I've got Jamie has driven some demonstration vehicles here from Sydney to Melbourne, which is over 900 kilometres. Could you just explain to the gentleman how the power changes?
Yes. Hello again. I drive, the track, from Sydney to Newcastle. It's about 5 hours ride. And the power of the engine, the want to, keep going, is very low. It's amazing. I have, chance, to drive, the youth from my son, from Melbourne to Sydney, and the youth as well, with the engine, with the gas, the hydrogen, and it's unbelievable. And the save of fuel is amazing. We fill up, twice, and it costs, around $10-20 in fuel. Diesel and the youth. So what I'll say, is we can see, in India with the excuse me, with the mining industry, with the what do you call them, the excavators. Is they go on. They got the power.
Good. Right, thank you. Now, one question. Let's say one has been using this technology for some time and decides no more to use it. the fact that you are no more using it, is it going to have any adverse effect on the engine, having used this for some time?
Yeah, absolutely not. Actually, you'll find that adding the hydrogen to an engine, it extends the life because it's cleaning up the carbon deposits. The hydrogen helps the fuel to burn more efficiently and more of the fuel. At the present, most of our engines only burn to about a 58% burn. If you can imagine every $100 you're spending on fuel, you're only getting $58 worth of efficiency. The rest of it's coming out of the exhaust. So the black smoke that you see coming out of an engine or a grey smoke, that's actually your unburnt fuel. So by adding the hydrogen, the long-term benefits is that you're cleaning up the past deposits. The engine specialists here in Australia are predicting for trucks and buses to have a 300,000 to 500,000 kilometre extension in life out of an engine because of the better burn and the more efficient burn.
Yeah, it should be very important to have a prospectus, okay, in the form of handouts with all these advantages, so that it's very easy now to go around and distribute and discuss and explain, where people can see in a written form what you are telling them, and then it's easy to distribute that, and it helps in the marketing of the product. Yes,
totally. We will put as much information together as we can and take your guidance on that. The other benefit here that the buses and trucks were changing their oil every 10,000 kilometres. They're now changing their oil every 15,000 kilometres.
Wow.
So besides the fuel savings, the emissions reduction, there is operational benefits out of the vehicles or out of the engines in general.
These are all marketing advantages or strategies we have to put out when we are marketing the product. And it's very important to have this in a written form, even approaching government, approaching whichever institution, it's good to come up with all these pros, all these pros to convince the prospective buyer or the prospective client. So it's good to have this all in a written form. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there's no much, I think we can end the meeting if everybody is okay. But as I said earlier, what I will encourage everyone is to sign the sales agreement, at least to secure the country for which you intend to establish this. Even if it is not now or in the immediate, you have secured it, whilst you work out plans to roll out, this product in that country.
Absolutely. And all of the team are here to help. Whatever we can help with, everyone on the team is here to help.
Thank you.
And again, gentlemen, it was a total honour to speak with you. And Patrick, thank you for being the true professional entrepreneur.
Thank you. And I thank you, everybody. Everybody has contributed to make this possible and a success. And Dr. Amos, I'm still trying to reach you, Dr. Amos. We're looking for that you can introduce yourself. Otherwise, we'll look for another opportunity where you can do that. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Thank you all.